Hello Internet. Welcome to the very first video tutorial from webexperttips.com. WebExpertTips is a blog and forum for web development and software tutorials. Today we are starting our very first video tutorial series, Starting Codeigniter from scratch, and in day 1 of this series we will learn about PHP frameworks, why we choose Codeigniter, what is MVC design pattern, and lastly we will be installing and setting up Codeigniter on our computer. So let's begin. Let us first understand why we need frameworks. World is good when we can mix PHP and HTML in a single file, isn't it? Of course it is, unless you try to build something useful and professional. As your application grows in complexity, suddenly mixing your server-side logic into the client-side views doesn't seem to be a nice idea. Especially when you are working in a team and one day you see that web designer has changed something which has screwed your database logic in the file. Or when one day your chief programmer has switched his job and now your new hire has no idea how the logic is flowing inside your application. Further, when your website grows, you realize that there are lots of codes getting repeated. And when you try to change one part of the code, it affects all of your system. Not an ideal scenario for a web application for which you are charging money from your clients, right? Wait, are you saying that you can avoid these problems by structuring your web application properly? By keeping your logic and design parts separate from each other and handling databases through classes? Of course you can. But what is the need to invent the wheel when there are several BMWs available? Framework targets exactly the kind of problems which could be faced by enterprise class web applications. Basically, a code framework is nothing more than a collection of pre-formatted classes and functions. There are frameworks created for practically every design language out there. Django for Python, Ruby on Rails for Ruby, and Codeigniter for PHP. Well, PHP do have several other frameworks to work with, and so does other languages, but we will come on this later. So to sum up, the main advantage of using a framework are efficiency. Repetitive tasks like creating CRUD can take hours and hundreds of lines of code to write, and still you might encounter a bug or two if you are an efficient programmer. Frameworks makes the mundane and repetitive tasks easier with pre-built functions. Development gets easier and faster, not to mention efficient and bugs-free application unless you decide to screw up something. Security is another important aspect. A widely used framework has really good security system built inside. If it has a big user community supporting and using it, be assured that most of the security loopholes has been taken care of. Cost, and most of these frameworks are free and open source, and as the development process is faster and leaner, cost for client is smaller. Everybody is happier. Support is another important factor. All these frameworks comes with a great documentation, a support team, and a big community forums where you can get answers to any concern or problem you are facing. This brings us to our main focus, Codeigniter. But before that, this is your right to know what other PHP frameworks exist. So there's Codeigniter, of course. Then there's Zen framework, Cake PHP, Symfony, Yi framework, Adroit, Flourish, and the list goes on. All these frameworks are great, no doubt about it. In fact, Zen framework, Cake PHP, and Symfony are practically driving the PHP framework industry along with the most popular framework of the lot, Codeigniter. We choose Codeigniter because we have to start somewhere, right? Every framework is great when you know how to get from it what you desire. But starting with Codeigniter is relatively easier. It has superb documentation, has very low footprint, it has a very big and vibrant user community, and most importantly, you can mold your application based on your requirements and not on a fixed line as touted by some of the other popular frameworks. Add to these the common framework benefits like custom routing, form and data validation, security and XSS filtering, full-featured database classes with support for several platforms, active record database support or ORM, and you have a hot and extremely powerful tool in your hand. I think that is why it has burning logo fire. Burning fire logo, right? Just kidding. So Codeigniter is based on MVC pattern. But you can very easily create your application without following it in a strict sense. But hey, MVC does make sense. MVC is the first and main reason we are learning frameworks. So before we move further, let us understand what is MVC. There are tons of tutorials available on the web describing what is MVC and how it works. I will try to explain the whole concept, that is MVC and its integration with Codeigniter in a simple workflow to make it easier to understand. So look at the flow below. What is happening here is the index.php serves as the front controller, initializing the base resources needed to run Codeigniter. The router examines the HTTP request to determine what should be done with it. If a cache file exists, it is sent directly to the browser, bypassing the normal system execution. Then there is this security layer. Before the application controller is loaded, the HTTP request and any user submitted data is filtered for security. The application controller loads the model, core libraries, plugins, helpers, and any other resources needed to process the specific request. The finalized views is rendered, then sent to the web browser to be seen. If caching is enabled, the view is cached first so that on subsequent request it can be served. So this is the whole process which is happening when you load a Codeigniter application. So where is this MVC hidden in this? MVC stands for models, views, and controllers. Models are the classes which interacts with the database. So here we can see this model class. It interacts with the database and populate the fields inside the application. Then there is this controller, which is the logical end of your application. Controllers files are those where your logic resides. What you want to do with the data is extracted through models. And there are views, which are kind of dumb. They are basically the template filled with information asked by the user. So in this example, data flows from the models to application controller, which in turn prepare the views to be served to the client. Simple. Don't worry if you don't get it initially. Once we start working with Codeigniter, everything will become as clear as sky in the summer. So now, when all the basics are done, let us start with Codeigniter. To start with Codeigniter, of course, you need a copy of Codeigniter. You can get the copy of Codeigniter from this from their official website, alicelab.com/Codeigniter. You can click on the download button, and I'm going to save this file in my WAM directory, www folder. There's the CI folder which I prepared especially for this tutorial. I will save this file in that folder. It's done. So here's this folder. Let's extract the files. Let's delete the zip file. I'll copy the files back to our main folder, which is CI. Let us delete this folder. So here is all the files in my www CI folder. If you're wondering what is this www folder, to develop a PHP application, you need a local host environment where you can run your local server, and you develop your application over that server. So in my case, I'm using WAMP. You can download WAMP from their official website, wampserver.com. I've already done that. When you install WAMP, under your C drive there is this WAMP directory, and then there is this www folder, which will be your main development folder. So there you can arrange your projects. So for this tutorial I've created the CI projects, and there is the CI files lying in there. So let's see how it looks. Let's launch WAMP server. Remember to exit Skype before launching VAM, I have seen that there is this conflict issue due to port number 80. So if you are running Skype, you can exit that application, and once VAMP is running, let's go to your localhost and then to your directory where you have installed your Codeigniter file. So I'll go to CMI directly and go to the file. So here is this welcome page from Codeigniter. So everything is done. Everything is good, right? It's so easy. It was so easy. I just downloaded the Codeigniter files and exported into my working folder, and nothing to configure to run the basic Codeigniter system. The footprint is low. You can see it is just I think somewhere around 4 MBs of files. So really very light framework and very flexible too. Codeigniter does not force you to use MVC framework. Of course, you can use MVC framework, MVC design pattern with Codeigniter, but you can make your own application in your own style using Codeigniter. So in that sense, it is very flexible. And Codeigniter does have very great documentation. I think it is one of the best documentation available in the net. So once you decide to learn Codeigniter, it will be very easy for newbies, and it would be a great introduction to the framework, into the world of framework of PHP. So before I say ciao for today's tutorial, let us do something with this. Yeah, let us try to modify this line. Let's try to make it something like, great start, you're on your path to become a Codeigniter ninja. How about that? So let's try to do that. I will use Notepad++. You can use editor of your choice. Notepad++ is really good, and again, like Codeigniter, it has a really small footprint. So you can see here it says that if you would like to edit this page, you will find it located at application, views, and there's this welcome message.php file. So there's this my www folder. This is the CI folder where all the files are located. There's this application folder, then there is this views, and this is the welcome underscore message.php file. So this is the file which is being served at this URL. So let us edit this line. Great start, buddy. You are on a path to become a Codeigniter ninja. Yeah. Let us refresh this page. Yeah. Great start, buddy. You're on your path to become a Codeigniter ninja. One last thing. Let us see what it is saying here. The corresponding controller for this page is found at application/controllers/welcome.php. So let's see what lies there. Applications, there's this controllers. This is the welcome.php file, and for the default index action, when we load localhost/ci, there's this default index action which is being triggered, and this says that load view welcome underscore message. So this is the logic part. So welcome.php controller file is telling the application that if when you are loading the index function of the application, then load this view, and it searches, the Codeigniter searches for this view under views folder, and it loads whatever resides here. So this is what is happening on your default Codeigniter application. It is now running successfully. From next tutorial onward, we will be learning how to configure our database with Codeigniter, how to edit the config files, and set up your database with your Codeigniter application, and then we will be building some really serious application using Codeigniter, and you will see why I'm pitching Codeigniter as one of the best application to start with in the world of the framework for PHP. So till then, you can see this video again. You can go to Codeigniter website, browse through, see the documentation. It has a really great documentation. You can do some editing from yourself, and let's see you on our next tutorial. Till then, bye bye. Thank you.